Welcome to One Man at a Time, the Kemen Show. Please like and subscribe to our channel.
The Kemen Show. We are strong together.
Good morning and good afternoon to all those who are in the afternoon, we are still in the morning, and to all those at night, good night to you, and welcome to Diaspora Media Max. This is another blessed Saturday, and we are here with the Wellness and Health Show, presented to you by Kemen Mental Health Star. It's an organization that deals with men and their mental awareness. Today, welcome to the show. We're going to be talking about the depression and suicide. Technically, we're going to focus on suicide and caused by depression. As you all know, suicide is number 8 cause of death among young men. And welcome to the show. This is Diaspora Media Max Radio. We have our presenters here, Dr. Alice Munyu. I call her doctor because she's a nurse practitioner. And we also have the president of Kemen, Mr. Anthony Kamna. Welcome to the show and tell us how was your weekend. Take just about 30 seconds. Tell us how your weekend, and then we're going to go direct to our topic for today. Welcome, Mr. with Alice.
Okay. Well, my name is Alice Munyo. I am a nurse practitioner and I focus mainly on physical health, but I also do mental health. And so my week has been great.
Good.
Nice. Awesome to be here. My week has been on point. Blessed. Great week. A blessing. Thank you.
As you all know, especially here in diaspora, that we have suffered since somewhere in November last year, we have suffered a lot of suicide among our people here in diaspora. And we also used to look at statistics online in all the world, everywhere in most developed countries, people are committing suicide at a very high rate. And that's what brought us our attention to why do people kill themselves? What is going on? People killing themselves. Is it depression? Is it other things? It's financial hardship. Right now, we are at COVID time. People are having a lot of hardships, and we have seen that this relationship actually with times of hardship and increased number of depression, especially right now. People has lost their job, lost their money, lost everything they have before because of this COVID, lost their businesses, and this correlation that the suicide rate is going up, especially among young men. And our own Alice Munua will take over and tell us why is this happening? Why are people killing themselves more and more, especially at this time? And even since last year, when we have a lot of people in diaspora killing themselves, at least are young people, you're talking about people in their 20s and 30s. And here in the United States, most of people actually around their 40s and 50s are the ones who are more prone to killing themselves. Welcome, Alice Munua, and let us hear from you.
Okay. So as we know, the way we've been taught, we are taught that depression causes suicide. So most people are always looking for those signs, the signs of depression in people who commit suicide. And most of the time you hear that these people either have had some kind of mental illness, either they were dealing with depression or drug addiction, or sometimes just out of the blues, they knew something was wrong, but they just couldn't figure it out, but they could see the signs. So that is what most people think about. So we're going to look at depression itself and see if it really causes suicide. So according to statistics, 54% of people who kill themselves show no signs at all. So we are looking at 46% today, the 46 that have a mental health condition. So, yeah.
So 54% of the people who kill themselves has no signs at all. So all these people, you say that they have mental problems like depression or something else is going on mentally with themselves. It's only 46% of the people who show symptoms. So what about these 54% of the people who does not show any symptoms? They just take a gun, kill themselves, they hang themselves, they are being found by your family members. What's going on with those people? Are we going to focus on that today? We're going to focus on those people who are killing, the 46% that are killing themselves because they have signs of depression, signs of mental health issues, and other financial issues. Let's talk about those people who, that 46%.
Yes. So today we're going to talk about the 46%. So we'll look at depression. What is depression? Depression normally is considered as a brain disorder. as a chemical imbalance. And so people will tell you that when you see depression running in families, people will always tell you that there is a genetic composition to it. So they feel like the genes, it runs in the family, so it must be genetic. So we're going to explore those things and see if it's really true. So focus on depression. What is depression? Depression is when you see somebody who has profound sadness, profound dejection, profound loss of hope, profound helplessness. And how does that look like? And sometimes you might see the doctor even writing on a prescription pad as clinical signs of clinical depression. And this is where most people, when they hear the word clinical, they automatically think, oh my gosh, it's a biological disease, it's being caused by a chemical imbalance, and so they think it's a disease. But we're going to look at it. We're going to look at the signs and symptoms and see exactly what it is.
So is depression a disease or just something that we...
Yeah, that's a good question. According to me, this is my personal opinion, but I know I'm right. And even if I'm not right, I'm entitled to an opinion, but I know I'm right.
Yes.
Anyway, so it's not a disease. Most times they will compare depression with diabetes. Well, the two diseases are actually different. One of it has a chemical, it is a physical disease because it's showing physical symptoms. Something is diseased in the body. Well, with depression, nothing is really diseased. So they tell you that, you have a chemical imbalance, you have a brain disorder, but let's look at the brain and see what really goes on. Because when we do MRIs and CT scans, we don't see any tumor. We see a brain that's working normally, but what is causing the chemical imbalance? So we're going to look at that. So most of the time, the doctors, from the research that has been done, they will tell you there is a biological, there is a genetic issue, there is a psychological issue, there is an emotional problem. But rarely do they ever say that there is a spiritual problem. And I found this to be the case. And when I bring it up, because we haven't been taught about spiritual issues and we don't know how the spirit world works, some people don't even know that human beings have a spirit. Some people think a human being is made up of two aspects, and that this comes from the Greek, Greek civilization. When the Greeks, in ancient civilization, when you wanted to know something, Athens was the center of education. That's why most people who are philosophers, they went there to get knowledge, to exchange knowledge, to discuss. And philosophers actually spent their whole day trying to discuss matters of life. So they came up with two things. They say the human being has two areas or two, I usually tell people that a human being is a triune being, but they say a human being is a diune being. That means a human being has two things. A human being has a soul, which they are correct on that. And a human being has a body. Now, what is the soul? The soul is the mind, the will, and the emotions. That is our mental body. But they never thought about the spirit. So the spirit has been left out. Now, when it comes to the other civilization was Egypt. When you look at the Egyptian civilization, they always thought that the center of life was the heart. And that's why you see in the Bible, they keep using the spirit interchangeably, or sometimes they use the soul interchangeably. When they're talking about the spirit, they talk about the soul. That's from the Egypt, because we know the Old Testament was written in Hebrew, and the children of Israelites, they spent many years in Egypt. So they borrowed some of the education that was coming from the Egyptian. The Egyptian thought the center of life was the heart. And most people think that it is your physical heart, I know when I went to school for many years, I thought we thought with our heart, because everybody was talking about, how you feel in your heart, how life is in your heart. Or they tell you, oh, my heart is broken, when they're talking about your soul. So then we come to the Greek civilization, and they knew about the soul, but they never knew about the spirit. So now we have those two classes of thought that a human being is made up of two things. The heart, they really don't know what it is. They think about the physical heart, but the physical heart is a pump. We know that. So when I was, yeah, so it's very confusing. And so our education itself is lacking information. So this is why I talk about the triune being. What is a triune being? The spirit, the soul, and the body. Those are the three things that make a human being. So when you're thinking, when you get thoughts, where do thoughts come from? That's another area that most people don't understand. And actually, I'm not going to talk about where thoughts come from, but I have done a video about suicide in itself. I have about 5 videos, and I go in details about the microcosm of a human being, looking at the spirit, the soul, and the body. And I've talked about the general universe, how the universe works, because the universe is spiritual. But then there's the mental universe, and there's also the physical universe. So every time you see something happening on the physical universe, the source of the information is coming from the spiritual universe. And I know that's complicated. So I'm going to refer people who want more information to go to my videos on YouTube, and I have the suicide there. But now let's talk about...
What's your name on YouTube?
Oh, it is Alice Monyo, FNP-C. So yeah, because I go into details about how the spiritual universe works, how the mental universe works, and how the physical universe works. So before you see something in the physical, it has actually started in the spiritual. And that's why I say life is spiritual. So where do our thoughts come from? From the spiritual universe. So our thoughts come from 2 sources. That is the kingdom of darkness and the kingdom of light. So
the thoughts to kill yourself comes from a spiritual that's dark. That's a spiritual darkness part of the spiritual.
Yes.
That's now has 2 thoughts.
Yes. So one kingdom is...
What about the atheist who doesn't believe in anything?
Well, they are still human. They still have a spirit. They still have a soul. As long as you're not disconnected from the source of hope, who is God, even when you don't believe, you're still connected to God. He never, and that's why we say God, even if you don't know him, his love for you will never cease. Because if it ceased, you could not exist. Without hope, you are useless. Yeah.
And that's what gets me most is that how can you say I don't believe in anything?
Well, for whatever reason,
without going out of a topic.
Then let me tell you how that works. It's not that people, even when people tell you that they don't believe in God, they believe in something. They still believe in something. Some people believe in themselves. They're like, I don't believe in anything, but I believe in myself, my ability. So then you become your own God. And that has its own limitations, but still, you are a human being. You still have a spirit. You still have a soul. That will never change. And you still have a body. Now, the problem comes because you believe in yourself. When the storms of life come and you have no anchor. You see, a human being who believes in themselves can never rise above themselves. So you don't have any defense. But when you believe in God, you can, the things that you cannot overcome, you give them to God, and you relax. You take a deep breath.
You give it to Buddha. You give it to whatever you believe in.
You give it to whatever you believe in. Now, many people in the universe, there are some who believe in God, but their idea of God is not the same as my idea of God. They believe in the divine being, who they call God it. So as long as you believe it, that's still a superpower. As long as you believe in a superpower, you will be okay, because you have a source of hope. Now, how far you can rise, it all depends on who you believe in.
Yeah. So if you believe in, if you believe in, I would say, what about those people who believe in science, but they don't believe in spirit, in a spiritual. They're not spiritual. They don't have God. They don't have God in their life.
Yes. And science is what most of us believe in, actually. Even those of us who believe in God, we still believe in science. And science has its limitations. Because some things in science, if you can't see it and test it, scientists don't believe it. They only believe in things they can see.
So now they have no faith, in other words. So they have no faith because the faith is something that you don't see, but you believe in.
Yeah, well, you could say that. But they do have faith in science.
Coming to the suicide, that's caused by depression. So we are here. If you are joining us, we are here. We are trying to define depression. What causes depression? How depression affects people internally, and how is this called? These thoughts, where thoughts come from? If you have learned that thoughts come from the kingdom of darkness or the kingdom of light, which is God's kingdom or spiritual kingdom. So, welcome, Jasmine Stephenson and all others. So, what is this relationship between depression and suicide?
Okay, that's a very good question. So let's talk about depression by itself, because everybody who is depressed is not suicidal. And that's what people have to understand, that all people who are depressed are not suicidal. Not everybody who is depressed wants to end their life. Mm-hmm. Not everybody who is suicidal wants to die. But mm-hmm. there is this small group of people who are done with this world and they want to go. Because for whatever reason, for whatever reason, life has not been kind to them. So let's talk about what that looks like. When you have bad thoughts, and most of the time it's anxiety, and actually most people who are affected by anxiety, if they know God, there's a problem with their relationship with God. Do they trust God? Do they have faith in God that He is able? So see that difference? Mm-hmm. So if you don't have faith, God says it's impossible for you to praise Him. And because you can't see Him, so that He is in the spiritual kingdom. His kingdom is spiritual. We can't see God, but we just have to believe that He is there and He knows our problems and He's going to take care and handle those things that we don't have. Now, there is also the kingdom of darkness. Mm-hmm. The kingdom of darkness is very, very complicated because it has a duality within it. You have had people say that the devil masquerades as an angel of light, right? So the kingdom of darkness has a light side to it. And if you don't have spiritual discernment, it's very difficult to see it. So I call it the light side of darkness. There's the dark, there's the gray areas, and there's the light side. And if you don't have spiritual discernment to look at what you're looking at, it's very deceptive. We have been told that the devil is the one, he is the deceiver of the whole world. Well, yes. If you know how the devil works, you know that his deception is not an easy thing to discern. He's a very clever guy. He doesn't work alone. And so
that's his agent, of course.
And he has agents. And part of it, I think the education that we've been given, it's limited. They held some information, this information, we have now been told the truth, and that's where you see all this confusion. So where is the connection between suicide and depression? That was your question, right?
Yes, that's my question.
Okay, so when you have bad thoughts, and most of the times it starts from anxiety. Anxiety is a fear of the future. You don't know, like you were talking about coronavirus. Businesses have been destroyed. Money, people have used up all their savings. If your hope is in your money, that because I have enough money in the bank, I will be okay. And a thing like this comes, a storm like this comes, and you have used up all your money, you start feeling defenseless. You start feeling hopeless. You start feeling helpless. You start feeling powerless, and you start feeling for some people, if they have worked very, very hard and all of a sudden all their dreams have been dismantled and they don't know how they're going to rise up from that, they feel worthless. And this is where, when you see depression, it comes up with all those four things: feeling helpless, feeling hopeless, feeling powerless, feeling worthless. Now, if you look at those four products right there, people who believe in God, if you have a good relationship with God, you will never suffer that. You will never feel hopeless.
So all those people who have lost, who are looking to retire, and they look at their 401k, like 3 weeks ago, they lost 40, 80, 100,000, and they have no hope where you're going to retire. Some people, most of the people actually lost their business, all the small business, most of them are lost. And that's their source of income. Some people they lost their job. That's the only way they will be able to pay their mortgages or pay their rent. So what can you tell those people to not to be helpless, hopelessness, and not to be anxious, and not to worry about tomorrow, not to get depressed?
Yes, they will feel anxious because they have put their hope in the wrong area, in their money. And it also comes from your upbringing. Now, I discovered this information actually in my 50s. I've always believed in God, but not the way I believe in him now. If a storm comes, I don't care if COVID comes, I am not going to be scared of COVID because I have faith in God. And I kept telling people, don't be afraid. You're not going to get sick. So you're listening to the TV and you're believing what you hear from the TV, but you don't see God as the source, as your source of hope, as your source, a healer, even seeing God as a healer. How about that? You know, so you fear. When you have fear is a spirit. And prolonged fear brings on depression, because after you've been afraid and you're fearful and you don't know where to turn, you feel trapped and you will definitely be depressed.
So what about all those people who are feeling COVID? I'm going to get out there, I'm going to get COVID. And this is what I tell people. Getting coronavirus is not a death sentence. Seriously. I work with corona people every single day. I get exposed to corona every single day. And I tell people, you walk in that Walmart, you walk in that Target, you walk in that hospital, you are exposed. I had a discussion with one of my church elders yesterday, and they were like, when remember the president said yesterday, we cannot go ahead and open the churches this week. And I was like, well, fine, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Because if you are so afraid of getting coronavirus, guess what? Lock yourself up in the house and never come out. And I can tell you one more thing. When you come out, be germophobic, because every single virus, including a simple flu virus, or a simple cold, not even flu, cold virus, will knock you down to ICU because you've been locked down. Your immune system is so poor. If you lock down, boost your immune system. Do not worry. Do not be anxious, because that anxiety is going to get you depression. And pretty much that's what's going on with the most people. So there's a lot of cases of depression right now as we are locked down with coronavirus. So people, let's not be depressed. Let's not worry. And let's trust in that spiritual being. Let's trust in God. And when we trust in God and we take us all our fears out, and then what is that impossible with God? Even if you get that corona, can God not heal you? Are you gonna go to get depressed and kill yourself?
That is a very good point. So people who believe in a higher power obviously have less anxiety. People who believe in God, like me, I absolutely have no anxiety. My faith was actually tested almost 3 years ago. And after that, once I overcame that, and I knew that if it wasn't for God, I would not have been able to overcome, all fear dissipated. So you look at a fearless person. When I see people afraid, sometimes I even laugh, because it's comical, some of the things they do.
And I tell people, if whatever you believe in, if that's what's going to save you from anxiety and depression and killing yourself, go ahead for it. If you meditate on what you believe in. If you do yoga on what you believe in. If you worship Buddha, worship your Buddha. If that's what that's what keeps you calm from anxiety and depression and all this stress, do what you want to do. Believe in your spiritual being. Believe in it. If that's what you believe, I cannot change you. Nobody gonna change you on that. Believe in that. If that's what's gonna keep you calm, thank you very much. Continue doing it. We don't want you to have so many pills in your pocket. You're popping pills for depression, for stress, for this, for anxiety, for that. And by the end of the day, you look like a walking pharmacy. And guess what that's to you? Every single pill you pop in, it has a side effect. And you're going to start taking this pill for this side effect. And actually, most of these pills actually also causes suicidal ideation. They give you suicidal ideation. And they are the medication you're taking for this to help you on this other thing. So people, calm down, take a deep breath, get what works for you. Believe in what you believe in, and let's make the world a happy place. Killing yourself solves no problem. Actually, it adds problem to your friends and families.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Now, you mentioned a point there. You talked about some of the side effects of drugs, and I will talk about the side effects in a minute. But they don't actually cause suicidal thoughts. What they do, because they are numbing your brain, the suicidal thoughts were already there. So medication cannot put a suicidal thought in your brain. The thought is coming from the spiritual kingdom and is coming to your mind. So the mind is not a physical thing, and then it affects the brain. So things flow in that order, from spirit to the mind to the brain. So when we talk about chemical imbalance,
the mind To the brain.
To the brain, yes.
Okay.
That's the order of flow. So when people say that depression is caused by a chemical imbalance, they're actually looking at the end result. They are looking at what the brain does when the brain receives those depressive thoughts. When you have hopelessness, when you have worthlessness, those are negative thoughts, and they are like vampires. They suck energy from you because that's not the way God designed you. See, the way God wired us, he wired this whole universe to run on love, because God is love. And he wired our neurobiology to be able to get food or energy from love. So love is what drives this planet. And suicidal thoughts wants to destroy you. And it's actually coming from a spirit. There is an unclean
so that's why
spirit.
People say nobody loves me in this world. I'm gonna end up my life because nobody loves me. And right there, that's your connection.
Yeah, that comes from an unloving spirit. So there are so many kinds of spirit. There is a spirit of heaviness. And I do believe the spirit of heaviness is the one that causes clinical depression. Because it's like you get depressed even sometimes when you don't know why you're being depressed. That's a spirit of heaviness. It just comes over you like a cloud. It puts pressure on you and it just holds you down. And you can't get over it. And we will talk more about where these spirits come from and why they attack your mind and why they have access to your mind. There's a reason why they have access to your mind. So, but we'll dive deeper next week. So let's look at some of the signs when people are depressed. Some of the signs they show. So they have sadness. That's a given. So that's when they feel depressed and they feel dispirited, like they have no hope, that kind of thing. They might also have suicidal thoughts. And this is where they say, I wish I'm dead. I wish I wasn't here. I feel like I'm a burden to my family. Those kind of talks. Sometimes you see them sleeping too much or sleeping very little. It all depends. There are different variations. There is like a spectrum of symptoms. Sometimes you see people eating too much. Sometimes you see them not eating. So sometimes they will tell you that they feel trapped, like there's nowhere to hide, there's nowhere to run. And we did talk about the feelings of hopelessness and also lack of motivation. They feel like, what's the point? Why should I even get up in the morning? What's the point? Where am I going? Because they feel hopeless. When you don't have hope, when you're disconnected from the source of hope, you cannot function. You ain't gonna be able to function.
And what's the source of hope?
The source of hope is God. That's where we get. Yeah.
Out there who doesn't know what's your source of hope? Is it on your money? Is it on your business? Is it on your physical material wealth? Or what's the source of your hope? Because that's gonna determine if your source of hope is taken away. Yeah. Then you are prone to this depression and prone to killing yourself. Because pretty much you see that's as if that's the end of the world. That's the end of the world for you, right there.
True. But now sometimes you see other symptoms that you can't really tell. You just see things that are not adding up. Like you might see these people, they're irritable. When you ask them for help, they start yelling at you, for no reason. People at work who are just irritable. I'm sure, Alex, you've seen people like that.
I've seen both sides. They're either irritable or they are so quiet they won't tell you a word. You try to help them, they won't speak to you even one word. Actually, they push people away out of their lives, and these people, they don't want to talk to anyone. They don't want to share anything with anybody. We have a recent case like that in California. This person didn't want to talk to anyone. They just want to live by themselves for days and days and days. And you try to help them with anything and everything, they won't say a word. And finally, what happened? Kill themselves, committed suicide.
When you see that happening, there is a reason. There is always a reason for something. There is lack of trust. Maybe they have been traumatized by someone they trusted. And so they isolate. So that's another thing you see.
And that's actually most of people who are in diaspora killing themselves. Most of these people are like that. They are just quiet people. They don't want to talk to anybody. They don't want to get help. They know there are people who have reached out, these people who kill themselves, and because they see there's something that's not adding up. When you see your friend doesn't talk to you anymore, they just keep to themselves. They don't want to get out anywhere. They don't want to interact, any kind of social interaction. They just shut everything out. And the next thing you know, They kill themselves. They are found in the river. They were found hanging themselves. They overdose on this medication. They overdose on that. And I'm like, what's this making people, especially our people in diaspora, kill themselves? And some of them, they actually show the signs, but when we people try to give them some help, they don't want it. They turn it off. They lock themselves in the houses, and they never open the door for anyone.
They push you away. But I don't know, most people don't have this kind of patience, but if you can, keep on knocking, because you just never know. They have to trust you. And sometimes they've been violated so badly that they actually don't trust people, you know, or they could be dealing with a spirit, a paranoia.
And that's one thing, especially people who has been there. There are people who has been there. They've been violated by their friends. Their friend has done so many horrible things onto them. They don't trust anyone. And I can see the reason why these people will not open up to anyone, because they don't trust anyone anymore, not including your family members, because they violated them so bad.
Yes, especially people who have been sexually abused by their parents, their dad, their mother. When that happens, when you're a small child, you lose that trust. You never develop it, because your mother and your father are, as a child, that is your God. Because you don't know any other source of hope. Your parents are your source of hope. And these people have been violated. So if they overcome that, and then something small happens when in their adulthood, it just spirals down. Everything falls apart, because the issue of trust was violated when they were young. So unless we actually get detailed information as to their life history, sometimes it's very difficult to help them. But if somebody has a family member like that, I would urge you to actually get in touch with me, because I can show you how to get them the help that they need, because the help that they need is not out there. It's not in the hospital. This is not something you treat with a drug.
So if this situation are like this before the COVID, what's gonna happen after COVID? I'm really been thinking about that. It's gonna be crazy. And it's loneliness. People are lonely. Somebody say, how comes when we come here, we get stressed out? Like, for example, when I came to America, maybe you can help me. I thought I'd be a millionaire within a month.
Oh, you fell for the American.
It's crazy.
Okay. You fell for the American dream. You fell for that. So you most people now, by now, you ought to know that the American dream is a hoax. So.
Oh my God!
I mean, you have to work for it. Of course, if it's there, you have to leave it. But I've never seen somebody who's satisfied and saying, "Hey, right now I'm living the dream." I've seen the millionaires. You want to make more and more millions. As I've seen people, even the people from diaspora, they come in here. They have no social right. They have no right. They are building pros. They are pulling doubles after doubles. And the next thing they do, some of them corrupt at jobs and they die. Clinically, they are worked so their heart so bad, they work their body so bad, they just corrupt and die. And guess what? Who ends up with those millions of dollars? They are putting the properties out there anywhere. Anyway, my point is, don't stress yourself, don't kill yourself trying to say I'm living the dream. The life you have right now is right now, because let me tell you one thing, you don't know if you're gonna wake up tomorrow. So appreciate what you have right now, what you're living right now, and if you need help, ask for it. But one thing I tell people, remember, where are you asking your help from? Because the source, without you ask your help when you are down, it matters a lot. You can go ask help from the sources that will actually make your situation 10 times worse than it was before.
So we'll dig deeper about those dreams, the American dream and the lie that has been told. But at the end, I will tell you how to actually make the dream happen. And you don't have to be in America to make the dream happen. It can actually happen any part of the world. You could be in Kenya, and because you do have a calling, and your calling will never, ever leave you. And it's bigger than your dreams. But let's talk about the symptoms that we don't see. Still, we are talking about depression. When people tell you that they are exhausted, they are fatigued, and celebrities, I know you live in California, Alex, celebrities love to use this. You always hear, oh, so-and-so was in the hospital from exhaustion. What is exhaustion? Exhaustion is actually depression. They just don't like to use the word depression. So they use exhaustion. So when you see somebody who is always tired, they are dealing with depression. Somebody who complains about headaches, body aches and pains, stomach aches, especially with children, stomach ache, headaches, those kind of things for no apparent reason, because there is really no reason they should have a headache. Headache comes from anxiety and tension and stomach ache. Most of these physical diseases we deal with, they are coming from our mind. So a few other things, lack of concentration. When people keep making careless mistakes, even at work, their performance goes down. Their grades drop for children. Falling, accidents, like this is careless mistakes, dropping things and breaking things. Losing the cell phone. When you see a kid losing their cell phone time and time again, something is going on. Losing money, losing their wallet, burning food when they're cooking. If they're always burning, something is wrong. Forgetting things, losing books, losing their homework, losing shoes.
That's all signs of depression?
Those are now the subtle signs that we don't think about, that this person could be depressed and they are actually depressed. There's a reason why you're seeing those symptoms.
What about the people who keep saying I have migraine headache? So if your headache is
And Alex, at some point we're gonna actually tackle these different diseases one at a time, and I'll show you the root cause of every single one of them, including allergies, asthma, stuff like that. So yeah.
So how can we help somebody who is out there and they are down, they are down, they are depressed, and how can we help them not to progress to suicide?
Okay, so we're gonna get to that. So when you see these signs, the first thing that people usually people will take themselves, some people will go to the doctor, and usually they don't go to the doctor saying, I'm depressed. They usually go to the doctor saying, I feel tired. I go to sleep and I wake up tired. I'm always fatigued. So the doctor then will do some diagnosis, and usually they will check your thyroid, because thyroid can mimic like depression. They will check fibromyalgia, those aches and pains. They will check for your adrenal insufficiency. Even that one comes mimicking itself like depression sometimes. They will look for a physical cause for what you're feeling. And when they can't find one, then they do the depression questionnaire. And they'll tell you, okay, you're depressed. We're going to put you on medication. So that's how they treat. Any questions so far?
So why not give me other option than medication? What's the medication going to do to me, my chemical balance or imbalance?
Okay, good. Good question. Because of the science and the way we have been educated, because I told you science does not go into the spiritual stuff. Now, when you look at other types of alternative medicine, like when we look at Eastern medication, that's Buddhists, the way they do stuff, the Indians, the way they do stuff, they actually understand the mind-body connection, but the Western world does not understand that. So everything has to have a physical reason why. So they say, okay, you're depressed. We know that you have a chemical imbalance. We know that serotonin is low for you to be depressed. We know that maybe dopamine is low for you to have no energy. And so we're going to give you pills to replace that. So that's how they treat.
But
can medication help? Meditation?
Well, meditation. You say meditation? Meditation is worship. Yeah, that's worship. Meditation comes from Buddhist and Hindu religion. So yeah, but now you're finding this with interfaith. You're finding Christians also doing meditation, but we'll actually dive a little bit deeper into that next week. So it will be all spiritual next week.
So
when we don't see the signs,
does it help if you meditate? Let's say we don't want to like categorize this the best. If you meditate, can it help to calm you down? Can it help to take away those anxiety, those thoughts of suicide?
To some extent, it will, but then you're gonna open yourself up to other things. To some extent, it will. Yeah. So to some extent, so be careful. And I want everybody who is listening to me today to actually tune in next week, because this is where you're gonna save somebody, where you don't see symptoms. You look at other behaviors. You look at how they worship, who they are worshiping, and that will give you a clue.
Okay.
Yeah, it will give you a clue to why you never see the signs. Okay, so we're moving on. What kind of medication do they give you to replace this serotonin that's lacking? So usually they give you, they give you SSRIs. Those are serotonin, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. I'm looking at my notes. They also give you SNRI. SNRI is serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor. What are they inhibiting? They are inhibiting the reuptake of those neurochemicals at the synapse. So they can stay there a little bit longer to bring messages back and forth so you don't feel tired. So dopamine, I told you, dopamine gives you energy. So it's the energy neurotransmitter. And when they keep it at the synapse a little bit longer, it kind of helps elevate your mood just a little bit. It gives you a little bit of energy. So because you are not making enough dopamine. So when they give you norepinephrine is a precursor to dopamine. So and then serotonin is made in your stomach. 70% of it comes from your stomach. Dopamine is made up in your brain. So serotonin, and that's why you hear them saying that the gut is the second brain. And that's why when somebody scares you, sometimes you feel like lightning just cut your stomach. You hear that. It's because your gut and your adrenal gland produces a lot of very potent neurotransmitter, and that's why you feel like something just cut your stomach when you get scared.
Is there a natural way to have all these chemicals, or you have to pop a pill?
Yes, there is a natural way to actually do this, reverse everything. So, but let me tell you some of the drugs that we use. SSRIs, your Paxil, Lexapro, Luvox, Zoloft, Celexa, Prozac, and many others. SNRI is your Cybota, Savera, Effexa, Wellbutrin, and many others. And years ago, they used to use the TCIs, which are tricyclic antidepressants. They also use, and sometimes they use the atypical agents, which we use for other mental health problems like schizophrenia, bipolar. They say that it can help with depression. And years ago, they also used to use the MOA inhibitors, which has a lot of side effects. So most of the time, you will see them using SSRIs and SNRIs. And now the side effects. I'm quickly going over so we can cover this, and I'll answer your question in just a minute. Okay, we have about 10 minutes before it's over. So side effects, you gain weight. You have erectile dysfunction. Last week we talked about the erectile dysfunction. Type 2 diabetes is another one. So if you have to be on medication, you have to be aware about that. The weight gain, the type 2 diabetes, and you have to have your A1C checked all the time. These drugs also cause thyroid problems. So that's not an area that people understand. And actually, because they're messing up with your neurotransmitters, your brain chemicals. And when you mark up with those things, you will have side effects. Now, your question is, does this help people with suicide? Most likely not. I mean, it can help a little bit if you have depression, but there's a better way to deal with depression. And that's when you align those things we were talking about. You align your spirit with the source of hope. You have to be connected to a higher power. And that higher power, because the human spirit will never become big, or it doesn't get regenerated unless it's attached to a higher spirit. This is where God comes in. But now when you don't believe in God, you believe in yourself. So you are your own God. But when the storms of life come, those people who believe they are their own God, or they believe in themselves, they will be tossed from side to side, and they are the first ones to fall. Because you don't believe in a higher power. Who's gonna save you when you can't save yourself?
So in other words, my atheist friend will argue that they don't have to believe in any spirit or spiritual higher being for them to have a good life, or for them to have a hope in this world. They can believe in science. That's what's been told for all these years. And what happens when the science fails?
So, when the science fails, it's not a good thing. And we know that science has a lot of problems. But there are also people who tell you that they don't believe in God, but their idea of God is very, very different. Say, for instance, people who are Hindu. Some Hindus will talk about God. They mention God, but their idea of God is very, very different from your idea of God. And other people will tell you, oh no, India is a godless country. But that's not true, because we know India has more gods than any other country in the world. Oh. So that's not true. So you always have to see how do they worship, because every human being has a spiritual practice. Even when they tell you that they are atheists, they believe in something. Mm-hmm. And that something is what holds them, is what their hope is. Their hope is based on that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But now we will see that when storms of life come, like COVID has never happened in our lifetime. It's the first time, and people are devastated. I'm not, I could lose all my money in the bank, and God forbid, I don't want to lose it. I could lose my house, and I'll still wake up tomorrow morning, and I'll still trust God to get more.
There's somebody here saying that cases of suicide from faith-based communities is on the rise. What could be the cause? These people are believing in God, and they are from a Christian background, and why are they killing themselves?
That is a perfect question. Can you please tune in next week, because I want to talk about that.
And there's also adding to that, somebody was asking, why are pastors, religious leader killing themselves? So maybe it goes to that too.
Yeah, because we'll talk about, because remember I told you that the kingdom of darkness has a duality to it. Mm-hmm. I told you that there's the light side of darkness. So sometimes you might look at someone, they talk about Jesus, they talk about God, they tell you that they're born again, they can even do deliverance that they're actually doing from the kingdom of darkness. It's only that it's masquerading, it's a kingdom of light. But we'll talk more about that next week. So let's talk about, yes, you have a question? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about where these thoughts come from. When you have suicidal thoughts, you're dealing with a spirit, the spirit of suicide, and this spirit wants to see you dead. So that's where you are. Sometimes you see suicide happening in families, and most of the time they will tell you, oh, it is hereditary. People kill themselves in their family. Their dad killed themselves. Their grandfather killed themselves. The sons are killing themselves. When you see that happening, there is a spiritual, the only thing we inherit, we don't inherit genetic materials from our families. Mm-hmm. That's another lie that science has told us. The only thing we inherit is habits, behaviors, blessings, and curses. So when you see suicide happening in a family, what do you think is going on?
They inherited what? Habits?
Curses.
Behaviors?
Most of the time it's a curse. Yeah. Mm-hmm. When you see suicide running in families, that there's a curse going through, and there's only one way to stop the curse. If you don't stop it, it's gonna affect your children, because somebody opened that door. Somebody opened the door to the spirit, the kingdom of darkness, to be able to affect you like that. And God usually says that for those people who disobey me, some rebellion that we do, sometimes we do it knowingly, sometimes we do it because of money, and we'll talk more about that next week. It opens that door. When you go to the kingdom of darkness for anything, you get it, you will get the money, but it comes with curses as well. Mm-hmm. So you could be being depressed, you have a spirit of heaviness, and you have no idea where it's coming from. It's because your grandmother opened that door. So now it's affecting your grandmother's children, their children's children, and maybe you are a grandchild. And you're suffering from depression, and you don't know, you feel like you want to kill yourself, you don't know why that's happening. You can't stop it, that you're dealing with a spirit.
Oh, that's not hereditary.
No, it's curses. It's a curse. Mm-hmm.
So why do we go back to the family history then? If some of these things are...
Well, you really want to know those things. When if somebody comes to me and they tell me that people in their family have killed themselves and they're having suicidal thoughts, I automatically know that there is a curse in that family. And there's only one way. There's only one way to fix that. So you need that information. Mm-hmm. There's only one way to break a curse, and that's with the blood of Jesus. There's no other God. Those gods out there, they can't break a curse like that. Jesus and the power of his blood. So
that's all you can break the curse.
So I know the meetings are all gone. One thing that I want to think about, I've been thinking about, are Christians killing themselves more, and the Buddhists and other religions are not, because it goes to what I said before. They meditate a lot, And if I read 1 minute real quick, like this is from a Buddha. The Buddha say, your true home is in the here and now, here and now. With mindfulness and concentration, the energies of the Buddha, you can find your true home in the relaxation of your mind and body in the present moment. So do we always, as Christians, give people false hope?
No. There's a reason why Christians, when you dive into stuff like that, there's a reason why you could be attacked very easily and you might end up killing yourself. But can we talk about that, please, next week? Because there's something very, very important I want to tell people about that next week. Because I know people are joining interfaith worship. It's going on. It's called the New Age spirituality, and our kids are into it. Mm-hmm. Thank you. So our kids are into it, and most of them don't understand the dangers of it. And when you open up yourself to that, maybe the devil has been looking for you, and especially because they want you, especially because you are a Christian, they want you, and you might end up getting dead. And yes.
So we have 1 more minute left, and so how can we help somebody who is out there, who is depressed, who is so down, and they feel that they're gonna end their lives?
Okay, very good. That's a good question. So when you see somebody who is having symptoms like that, if there's a danger, if they're actively suicidal, you can ask them, do you feel suicidal right now? And they'll either tell you yes, or sometimes they deny. If you see they're doing self-aggressive, they're being aggressive with other people who are fighting a lot or driving cars recklessly, they need to be evaluated. People who are drinking alcohol recklessly, they need to be evaluated. Anytime you see antisocial behavior, please take that person to a mental health specialist, get them evaluated, because they know how to do this. Now, if they identify that somebody is suicidal, the way to fix this as a parent or as a family member, just know that this is a spiritual problem and it's not a medical problem. But now, if somebody is in a crisis, because suicidal crisis is where somebody wants to die, that person, you cannot leave them alone. And you need to call the suicidal hotline, at least get them to a safe place like a hospital. Let them stay there until they are no longer suicidal. And then you can deal with the spiritual stuff. So when they get discharged and they're discharged with a pack of pills, just know that that's not the end and that's not going to save them.
Good to know. Good to know. Thank you very much. And so you heard we've been talking about suicide and in relationship to depression. As you know, suicide is number 8 cause of death among men, and more men are killing themselves so more. And actually, we came to during the show, we came to realize that more people of Christian faith are killing themselves, even much more than non-believers. So we're gonna look into that next week. And if you have someone in your family, your friend, your community who is experiencing suicidal thoughts, especially during this difficult time of COVID, call the hotline number. There's a suicide hotline number. You can call in, just Google it on your phone. It's always there. And it's open 24/7, and there are people who can help you. And also there's also suicide centers in your communities. You can just Google and find out where you can take your loved one if they have any symptoms of committing suicide or even depression. So you have heard that 46% of the people are the one who only shows suicidal symptoms and signs. What about the 54? The 54, you as a friend, you are there as a friend. You're gonna have, you know, your family, your friend, your parents, you know that this person very well. You are the one who actually can tell what's going on with this family. Something has suddenly changed with this person, and they are in the verge of killing themselves. Help them out and give them this 1-800 number or the hotline for suicide prevention, or take them to the Rocco ER. They'll be taken good care of. Until next week, that's our time for today, and we're going to continue this debate next week. Until then, goodbye.
Welcome to One Man at a Time, The Kemen Show. Please like and subscribe to our channel.
The Kemen Show. We are strong together.